right, y'all. So look, breathe. I'm gonna just go ahead and share with y'all. Today's guest is someone whose spirit is both grounding and galvanizing. A leader I first connected with virtually and immediately thought she has incredible heart. She doesn't just lead, she lives this work. She moves mountains on behalf of all humans. Patrice Dawkins-Jackson is the kind of Black woman leader who makes you sit up straighter and breathe deeper. She's a mom, she's a system shaker, she's a wonderful wife and partner, a visionary voice in education and philanthropy, and one of those people who understands that true transformation doesn't start at the surface, it starts at the soul. Now, I'm going to pull up all the good receipts because some of the things you need to know about this incredible woman is she is the founder and managing director of the Blueprint Collective. Yes, she is. And she also has served as a advisor to the president for the Carnegie Foundation for Advancement of Teaching. And just in case you didn't know, also a University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education, an EDD student, doctoral student with the Penn Chief Learning Officer and Organizational Leadership and Learning. All right, now, good gracious. You also will learn and know and embrace that this incredible woman is also doing some incredible work to redefine what it means to invest in the whole child, the whole family, and whole community. And before we get into any more of all of the great things, I really appreciate her incredible kindness, her generous spirit, and she's rooted in the divine. And I am excited to invite you. I'm calling you Dr. Patrice.
Hey, let's go. I'll take it. Let's go.
Welcome to Brave Voices in Education. How is your heart, my friend?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, in your space, and being able to just impart what I know and I've learned on this journey with your audience. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, like, how could I not? Like, you are a beacon of light for this world. And so I'm curious, like, what is part of your joy collective right now? Like, how are you living in joy?
So how I'm living in joy is that I am very much so grounded in my faith. I am calling this like surrender season. That's where I'm at. So because of that, because I'm in that place of like surrender, it's just giving me a lot of peace and relief. It's not like I feel like I have to carry everything on my own. And so very much so guided by my faith, and that's definitely bringing me a lot of joy. And then also another thing that's really grounding me in my joy is just my family, watching our boys. I call them my joy on legs, growing up and seeing how they're evolving and changing and really embracing this journey that I'm on with my business. So my consulting firm, as well as I'm launching a podcast too. And so it's really been exciting to see what's like, one step ahead. So that definitely brings me a lot of joy.
Yes, yes. Well, for those there may be some folks, just a couple who probably may not know who you are, may not have been in your universe, but some of the things that I know that I've been inspired by is you really do put yourself before us as a master teacher where we can learn from you. It's never like perfectly curated. It's never that you are only putting out these luxury shots of who you are as the world. You show us that you are continuing to grow as an imperfectly perfect human being
That's
who
right.
has an incredible deep faith, as you name, that you also have had quite the wellness journey, and you censor a lot. Like, I could see the intersections of that. And so I'm just curious for you, what made you decide to actually be a beacon in this way, to kind of share a little bit more about your journey publicly?
Yeah. So one of the things I always say is I have two guidepost quotes that I live by. And the one of them is that someone is waiting on who you're becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it's like, it doesn't make sense to have pretense and not to be transparent, because everything that I'm learning is not just for myself, or what I'm experiencing is not just for myself. It's for other people that are coming behind me. So it's like, why wouldn't I just be honest. And like so much of what we see as far as like social media platforms and things like that, or other people's platforms at times, is so superficial and so heavily curated
Yeah.
that people really crave realness.
Yes.
And I understand that. I understand that, that no one wants pretense. People can smell a fake from 1,000 miles away. And so I want to make sure that I'm showing up as my authentic self, being really transparent about my journey every step of the way, and so it can be encouragement to others that, we're all a work in progress. My other guidepost quote is that I'm learning all the time. My tombstone will be my diploma. And I know that like every step of the way, I'm just moving towards that.
You're down south, and it's an interesting, you are down there in Georgia.
I am. I am.
One of my favorite places. I really thought that at some point I would have a nice little spot in Stone Mountain, because there was this one 5-bedroom home that I loved that
Mhm.
was right up there, and I also thought like I might be closer to Designing Women, like all the ladies of Designing Women. That was my show. There is something about the Southern experience, especially when we think about Georgia has been such a I'm gonna call it a hearth in its own way around liberation, around civil and human rights. I'm also curious about your origin story in championing the rights, especially of those who are most marginalized. And you have a really interesting way of going about doing that. And so I'd love for you to just kind of lean in a little bit more to like what actually shaped your viewpoint or walk, the calling on your life to actually stand before us so bravely for folks who may not even know your name.
Say the biggest thing that influenced that is my childhood, especially when it comes to the education sector. Like I saw firsthand how there were deep injustices rooted in the education system. So when I look at myself and my sister, we grew up in the same house. We had the same kind of exposure and experiences. My sister went to the school that we were zoned for, and I went to a public magnet school. And the trajectories of our lives completely different. What we had were exposed to, what we were the opportunities that we were provided in the school setting, completely different. I reflecting back on that, seeing that was one of the things that really was a driver for me. The other thing that was a big driver for me is I went to a middle school that literally was like lean on me. I say that I mean in every sense of the word. I mean, like, it was like the school that no one wanted to send their kids to, housing projects on one side, the train tracks on the other side right behind it. I mean, like, that's where I went. However, there were so many amazing teachers that were at that school. There were so many people that I learned so much from. And it's like from the crack house to like, everything in between. And I learned so much from that experience, and saw also the injustices in when you look at systems, what was afforded to people at our school. And then, but I had a teacher, Mr. Williams, and he died like some years ago. And he really instilled in me the importance of education. And I was really going to be an engineer. And it was because of Mr. Williams. I'm a super nerd.
Okay.
Every sense of the way. I'm a cool one though. Don't get I'm like, hey, I'm cool. But I really was like very deeply into like robotics and things of that nature. And I saw that like that something that he brought there because he wanted to show kids something different. So when I think about like all of the experiences that I've had and why I show up the way that I do is because I want to show people something different. Even when I went into teaching, it was like I specifically wanted to go and teach in Title I schools. I didn't want to go anywhere else because I knew that was what was the saving grace for me. That there were teachers that looked like me and there are some who didn't, but they were heavily invested in my success, and they allowed me to understand the importance of anything can be taken away from you but your education. What you learn, that's permanent. It's here. And I wanted to make sure that students understood that as well. And then like when you like fast forward to now, thinking about what I see from just from a policy lens, being inside of like the education sector and policy, and also in not in the nonprofit space, is that organizations that are mission driven and serve the people that are in, I hate to say marginalized communities, but I say most resilient communities, and
Yes.
people who are working to make their lives better every day. Oftentimes, the organizations internally are not in the place where they need to be in
Yeah.
order to really meet that mission. And so, my work that I do is really centered around making sure that people understand how to create the internal conditions to be able to actually execute and optimize serving your external strategy.
I'm appreciative of every educator. And I think we are appreciative of every educator who's poured into you so that you would be who you are today. And you're not, and you haven't even became who you are destined to be.
Not yet.
Look,
Not
right?
yet. Not yet.
You are on your way and closer than we know. A couple of things that I think about with this, especially for Black women, thinking about my mom, I think about some of the chief architects in my life who've poured into me, but also pushed me back out of my own ego, out of my own harmful thinking, like really had me to do some shifts. And I understand that Black girl brilliance is not a byproduct. It's always been the blueprint. I know that Black women like yourself are expecting to go into systems that were never built with you in mind,
Mhm.
but are expected to fix them. And so I would love to just lean in a little bit more about this systems level work that you've been able to do. And you've been able to work in some of the most lauded and noted organizations in our country that really are having the conversations, are shifting mindsets, are trying to dismantle some of the harmful systems that have impacted you, but also have inspired you to be who you are. And so, one of the questions that I'm really thinking about at this time, with all that we're holding, you're a mom, a scholar, a leader in a foundation space. But before titles, there was always the truth. What did little Patrice believe about education?
Mm.
And how has that belief shifted now that you're shaping it?
So little Patrice believed that I could not be mediocre.
Mhm.
That's number one. And that was definitely driven by a family full of Black women who also were teachers. At my elementary school that I went to, my Aunt Bet, my cousin Eleanor,
Mm.
a distant cousin, Miss Bullard, their sorority sisters, Miss Walker was the principal. I mean, like the next door neighbor to my godmother was my second grade teacher. I'm surrounded by Black women who were like, you cannot be mediocre under no circumstances. You are brilliant, and we know that education is a key driver because they were living it and I could see it. I had those examples where I could see that for myself. And the other thing that I told myself about what I would say Lil Patrice would say about education then was that it was 100% okay to be a nerd.
Yes.
1000%. Like I never shied away from being an avid learner and celebrating like every step of the way of my intelligence, into all those things. Like it never was something that I was ashamed of
Mhm.
ever. And I remember distinctly that when I was in middle school, I had some friends, and they would be considered by people looking on the outside would be like, they would like the bad girls. And I remember that my friends were like, no, don't bring that around her. Like they would tell people that, like, no, that's not how she moves. And so I really believe that little Patrice would definitely say that, understanding the need to like really strive for excellence and be the absolute best that I can be, and not to dim my light
Mhm.
when it came to my education and my ability in that area.
I think it's powerful to know you have an incredible lineage of Black women. I think there's a particular piece of art. I believe the artist is Wak that has this like this tree of Black women And it, like, the center is this little young girl, and then you then have like a mom figure, sisters, aunties, and then grandmother, who all form this tree, and it's so powerful. And I hold that dear. A good friend of mine in New York has this painting in his home, and I think about just this country. This country was built on the backs of Black women. Yet we find that you all continue not only to persevere, you do it with an incredible smile. I know that it's not easy. I know at times it can feel exhaustive, especially in pockets and places where they don't want to recognize your genius. They don't want to always honor the integrity that you hold, and that there are many times barriers that are placed before you in order for you to not be successful. But you have not allowed any of that to dim your journey ahead. And so I'm curious, with you as well as many of the Black women who you are in community with every day, I understand that you are driven by equity. And I also know that there's a cultural clarity. When I use the word cultural, I'm using that much more broadly than people just thinking that this is just about race.
Mhm.
I think that we have to really stretch ourselves to think that equity work and culture work and diversity, like this DEI, is bigger and greater than just race. But we seem to center it on this because we want to lean into anti-Blackness. But I'm curious, how has being a Black woman in rooms that were not always designed for you shaped the way you build, listen, and lead?
Oh, man, I would say it has given me a great, I have a lot of empathy. A lot of empathy. I really try, and I try to make sure that I'm thinking about every circumstance from the other person's perspective. I try to gain that. And it's because of like me, like my background in design thinking and like really in human centered design and making sure that you really are like, are you putting yourself in the other person's shoes? So I would say that's one of the things that I've really tried to hone in on is making sure that I'm really deeply understanding where that person is coming from. I also would say, and I really like the fact that you're talking about when you were talking about the DEI space that it's beyond just race, because I think that's a way to just it's a way to, yes, very much so anti-blackness and like elevate white supremacy, to be quite honest. And so when you think about that, I am think all the time about accessibility. And accessibility is not just the physical things like making sure people can get into places, but like accessibility of around access to information. How am I conveying what I'm saying? So it is reachable to a variety of people. And it's not just I'm not staying in this place where I'm like up here and and you're down here.
Yeah.
That makes absolutely no sense. So I think about even those terms in a completely different way and broaden the definition of that when you think about like diversity, equity, and inclusion, thinking about accessibility, think about what does inclusivity really look like? Because it's not just, what we think that it should be, but like more than just who's at the table and, whose perspective is shared, but more so along the lines of, are we thinking about generationally? Like thinking about inclusivity from that perspective. What are the needs of different people when we're thinking about inclusivity and things of that nature? So I try to make sure that I'm bringing that lens
Mhm.
and really being curious. So it's like, when you're saying that you're in a place where people are like, you might be the only, or, you may not necessarily be celebrating that space. I started to get really curious about like what's behind that. One of the things that I have definitely learned and has helped me navigate those spaces is to really say to myself, this is not about you.
Mm.
Like how this person is showing up right now is not about you. There's something behind that. So it helps you not take it personal and continue to persevere.
One of the things that I'm thinking about, I talk about my parents a lot more in these podcasts than I ever imagined. I do recognize they are my first teachers, right? And they
Absolutely.
shape the lens. They made decisions on who was going to be an influence in my life. And one of the things that I never really thought about until now, that my mom is in her 60s, mid 60s now. My dad is in like mid 70s. And we think about, I'm having to think about accessibility in ways I've never had to really stretch myself. Like I
Mhm.
understand that intellectually, in making sure like buildings have ramps for folks who need to be able to get into a building. I've thought about closed captions on the screen when we're, we got things going on TV, because sometimes people have hearing impairments and things like
Mhm.
this. But I also think about what, even if your organization doesn't automatically present with these needs are present, like there's someone who is named, like I have this need, that we prepare the spaces for when that person or those people arrive. Like we get our ecosystems ready. So when that person, those people see it, they're ready. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know y'all had the table set for me.
Mhm.
You knew I was coming. It's like, yes, this is why, it's, we have Braille here, or we're thinking about making sure from a language perspective that we have multiple opportunities and ways to exchange, or, that we have these spaces for meditation, or if you have you have a particular faith, that you have this space that's dedicated just for you to have a breather and more. And so I'm curious, you are creating quite the table with the Blueprint Collective. I'm would love to have you share a little bit more about like what's that origin story and why now?
So I will say that, and I'm looking at it. I have like a vision board up above my computer,
Mhm.
and it's been on my wall. And one day, as when I was working in my previous context, I just was like, okay, jot it down on a post-it, literally on a post-it. That's right here, and it just said the blueprint.
Mhm.
And I was like, what are the things that I would do? Because in a perfect world, if I had control to be able to really impact organizations, what would I do? And I was like, I would definitely invest heavily in working with executive teams
Mhm.
and making sure that they understand that they actually need to be a team,
Mhm.
because they are like, I have this analogy. I used to teach gifted. And so I had to teach analogies to my students. And I would say all the time, an executive team is like the nucleus of an organization.
Mhm.
And if and in the cell. And when you think about a cell, the nucleus drives everything.
Mhm.
That is like the brain center. And if it is in breakdown, then the cell is in breakdown.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I was just like, I would see that I'm like, okay, there's so many fragmented executive teams. That's why they think like everything is not can't go how it should go. It can be optimized, because if that team is in breakdown, then what other teams are in breakdown and who else can see it? So I was like, okay, definitely that. I was like, I want to do, work that. The other part was out being in schools, you see like these big rollouts of things happen, these huge initiatives come out. And I was like, well, what change management framework are you all using? Because I didn't see you all go through any kind of steps to make sure that everyone is prepared on board, clearly understands what this change is about and why, and are they equipped with what they need to actually execute? So it's like, okay, definitely change management, but with a human centered lens. Because I'm like, if you can't think about all of your people who are impacted along the way and design for that,
Yeah.
then are you actually going to get the outcome that you are anticipating? So it's like really like this kind of different look at lens at change management was the other thing. And then lastly was really around psychological safety and thinking about how does that impact the well-being of organizations. Oftentimes people are like, oh, I know it's like a lot of people are kind of like, that's fluffy. People think like things like that are fluffy when you start talking about culture and things of that nature. I'm like, wait a minute. If I don't feel psychological safety, literally means like you feel safe to take an interpersonal risk. So if I don't feel safe to say anything about who I am, my identity in any way,
Yeah.
how are we going to have a conversation about equity? It's not happening. How can you have a conversation about race? Anything,
Mhm.
if you as an individual don't feel that level of safety from the beginning. So I feel like it's very foundational to any work of an organization. And it's not an initiative, it's something that's ongoing. Like I've heard, like seen where it's been treated like an initiative. Like, okay, check, we're done with that. And it's like, actually you're not, because this is still like toxicity hanging around here. And so and it's something that takes a lot to build, but one decision, one action can completely dismantle it. So it's just, so that was one of the things that I looked at. I was like, okay, if we are looking at executive teams and like leadership at the top, change management, and then psychological safety, like those three pieces are really what the blueprint focuses on and what it's all about. And it's like really to make sure that organizations can operate effectively for not only their staff, but for the people they serve. And I don't think that correlation is made, because it's like people are like, we want to get to the bottom line. We want to get the strategies. Like, yes. And how is that going to be executed if you don't have any people here?
Yeah, yeah. I too have done a number of trainings as a participant and as someone who facilitates adult, change management as well. Folks think that we've done the training. We might talk about the training a few weeks, a few months later. We might even have a tool or insight that we built into an ecosystem, a meeting cadence or a meeting apparatus, a protocol, a process. We might think, oh, we have this poster on the wall now that, was a manifestation of that. And like, that's all the work. But for organizations that have been around for a long time, that change takes years because now
Absolutely.
you have to actually change the minds, hearts, and spirits and thinking. You have to shift people from places of comfort and
Hmm.
places of uncomfort or discomfort, and now you have to unlearn the things that you've held on to for a long time. And so what it's always fascinating to me that people will invest in these quick anecdotes, these anecdotes to like, here we got this train, okay, we did it, oh, I got the certification on LinkedIn, I'm ready, I'm prepared. It's like, no, 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 no.
Oh, no.
You have to get people to now undo harm or repair harm. You have
Yes.
shifting in their mind, body, and spirit around ideology that has been soaked into their DNA because they've been socialized in that way. And so I'm curious. I know that you did some work with a sports organization,
Hmm.
a national sports organization. I don't know whether or not you can talk about that at all, but I'm curious. I know I saw that you did some work in a major sports arena. What was exciting about that work, and what do you feel? I guess I'm curious. Like, what are you learning about yourself as you have this great opportunity
Hmm.
to plug into a part of this organization's work?
So, so I did work. Well, I mean, like very, it's very much public. So I work with college football. So when they had the national championship here in Atlanta, really worked with their sports council, the college playoff foundation arm of the organization, as well as other entities, ESPN and things of that nature. And what I would say I learned from that experience is really thinking about framing. I learned a lot about framing. I learned a lot about strategy. So thinking about how do you strategically meet these goals? Because we had like really big, I mean, big goals. Like one of the goals was to reach 40,000 teachers before the national championship, which we surpassed that goal. We were able to surpass that goal well before the national championship took place. And so thinking about like, how do you engage people? How do you make sure that people feel seen? I mean, there were times that I would have conversations where it was just like, I think this perspective is missing, and here's why. But I had to really be thoughtful about how to be able to share that information. And so I would say that was another thing too that goes back to the framing, but also goes back to strategic communication. A lot of the work that I was doing was around strategic communication, engagement, really building relationships. Like the power of having strong relationships and the ability to build relationships was like key to me being able to do that work and do it really effectively. And the one of the things that I wanted to highlight, and it goes back to what I was sharing about my work with my firm, is understanding resistance. So like being able to really not just back away from resistance as leader, also, but more so, how do you lean into resistance to learn what's happening there? And that was really helpful in that context. When you're thinking about working with different high profile people, people who may have like their specific agendas, you're like, okay, so what do I need to learn about? What the pushback and things of that nature. And so it was an amazing experience, absolutely amazing. I totally wish I could do it again, but it's moving to another city. But I loved it so much because I grew a lot personally and professionally. And it also confirmed for me that I absolutely am walking in the purpose I'm supposed to. And so that like it's kind of like the thing that kind of helped me sit and really settle and ground myself in like, what actually are you doing? Like, this is what you should be doing, not what you were, pursuing previously.
One of the toughest questions that's sitting on my heart, and I just want to lean in with you just a little bit.
Mhm.
At this time, it is June of 2025 when we're having a conversation. I'm going to give the context
Yeah.
a little bit, and we're at a place where there's a lot of conversations about where's Black leadership at this time because you talked about resistance, and I just want to talk about that
Mhm.
a little bit. And there's at this point there's some protests, there's some marches, there's some and, we have ICE raids that we're dealing with. President is decided to do a parade with military
Mhm.
apparatus as a what do I want to call this? As a provocative show, I'll say that. But one of the things that I am really wrestling with actually comes from, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, one of the media personalities who's based in Atlanta right now, Funky Daniva, who's talking about how should Black folks find themselves at this time of resistances,
Mhm.
protests, school committees, running for office. There's just a lot of things that are happening. And Funky Dineva said that he is really wrestling and experiencing a level of tension with whether or not Black folks should actually sit this one out because we did our job with
The We the 92.
voting, voting for, the first would be first Black, first president, first female
Yes.
president. And there is a question about like, okay, should we be leaning into more rest? Is that the resistance? Do we find ourselves collectively again bringing a collective of us together to produce a strategy, engage in some of these actions? I'm curious as you think about resistance in
Mhm.
many ways that you are shaping this work, but you are also someone people are looking to as a leader, as a voice. What does resistance work look like for you? What are you hoping
Mhm.
folks, Black folks specifically, how are you thinking we should actually wrestle with this thing of resistance at this time?
So one of the things that I would say is that and it's so interesting that you asked that question because I'm thinking about it's like, oh, we the 92. We the 92 said we are entering a place of rest. I completely, I'm like, listen, I said, I'll wait. We the 92.
Yes.
Yes, we were 92.
One of the
What I will say is one, rest is resistance.
Mhm.
Our joy is resistance.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, our joy is resistance because we have always
Mhm.
been oppressed. Period. I don't care what no one says. Like that our existence
Mhm.
is resistance to oppression that we faced as a collective.
Mhm.
And so when I think about like what I'm doing is like I have chosen to like do things in other ways, like support organizations, things of that nature, like financially, volunteer my time around issues that are policy issues that have shown up, especially like with like being unhoused and things of that nature. So that's the kind of things that I've done personally.
Yes.
And then at the same time, because they're like we've heavily invested our time, energy, resources, our bodies
Mhm.
in a lot of ways for this country
Mhm.
that I'm like, in some of these respects, I'm like, I'm going to gracefully bow out. That's this one. Like really maintain a place of rest, really maintain a place of building collaboratively and together. Because what we've seen over and over again is that when we build together, that's where, that's a form of resistance. We are not going to just sit, by the wayside and not work to build for ourselves. And that is one of the things that I am wholeheartedly participating in, is making sure that I'm contributing to helping us build who we are, because for so long that has not been the case. And we see that there are so many systemic things that are trying to fight against that. And so it's like, because we can see those things that are trying to come against us, it's spurring more energy towards building for ourselves. And I'm here for that.
Yes, yes. You made me sit there and think. I had to go back and look at my devotionals. I was like, "Where is one of the devotionals?" Strangely enough, was about rest. It says, "Rest is the righteous rebellion." That is the title.
Absolutely.
Comes from Matthew 11:28. Come to me, who all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And that was the word. It says, "Rest is holy." Like the takeaway.
It is. It is. It's a part, and that's what I said. A part of where I'm in a place of like this surrender season,
Mhm.
because it's a place of rest for me,
Yes.
and not really like being in the space where it's like, you gotta go get it. You gotta go get it. No, actually, you don't.
Mm.
That's that mentality has like really beat especially our people down so much
Uh-huh. Mhm.
that we don't realize that we're killing ourselves, because we try to be so self-reliant, opposed to being really tuned in to our spirit, really focused on our like faith, working collaboratively together.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm all about the rest life.
Look, I love it. And I'll lean a little bit more with you, because it's just a place of curiosity. I feel
Mhm.
safe in saying what I'm about to say. In full transparency, I know at this point I am very overwhelmed and overly stimulated, because the places we're in, I'll speak for myself. I know that people are looking to me for answers and solutions. They're looking at how I'm moving and walking as well. I have this pressure on myself in regards to Saturday. Generally is my day. Like, I want to fight. I'll wake up, I'll go and work out. I want to frolic. I want to play. I want to be in community with folks. I want to do brunch. Sunday, I'll still wake up and do my devotional. I might go to church and sing in the choir. I might. But Sunday is like my day to like get prepared for the week as well. And one of the things that I'm wrestling with, honestly, from entrepreneur to entrepreneur,
Mhm.
is I know when I'm scrolling on social media, I see so many of our, wonderful folks who we're in community with, who have the wonderful curated content that's posted, and these luxurious images of being at the brunch spot, building millions and buying properties and all of this. And I wrestle with the fact that is not what God may want for us. I think that God wants us to experience abundance, but I
Mhm.
also don't think that God puts the pause in our lives because it's prophetic. Like, there should be places where we just pause so God can minister to us. So I'm saying all that to say that, like, I know I am a victim of being in the cogs of this machine, because I honestly don't want to go back to what I experienced as a child, where we got food off of a back of a truck. We were on government assistance. My parents, many times, even though they both worked jobs, had us educated in schools, clothes on our back, but the money just didn't always add up. And I know that times are even tougher now for folks
Mhm.
who are leaning, who might lose government assistance, that is sustaining them. It is not a lot, like, it's not putting them in places of thriving.
Of wealth, I was gonna say, like, it's not like it's put them in a place of wealth. It's just like, I'm trying to make it.
Yeah. How do you wrestle with that? And how do you reconcile where you, like, again, I know you have multiple things maybe going on, but could you share a little bit more? But, like, how are you thinking about this again, as a mom, as
Mhm.
a wife and partner, as someone who has a business? You are, an incredible scholar. And I know that you're plugged into so many places, but I also know that if someone may say, well, if I rest, it comes at a cost. And so I'm just
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
trying to reconcile that.
Yeah, so what I would say to that is, like, I trust God for that.
Mm.
And that's like, well, that's the place where I am. It's like, I'm like that whole like rise and grind, all that. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna rise and grind. I'm not gonna do that, because then I am just depending on myself to accomplish the God dream that I have.
Mhm.
It's like my little sign back there
Yes.
that I have. No, I'm serious. It's like I have to remind myself, like, how these dreams that I have, because they've been put there for a reason, how they're accomplished is not my business, it's God's business. So with that,
Mhm.
I have to I have to stay in a place of like being restored and rested because I won't be able to do it. I think about one of the pastors that I watch all the time and listen to, like he takes 2 months off every year just to like step away, to really like focus on his family, to focus on his marriage, to really consecrate himself and all those kind of things. And it's like, why wouldn't you? That's like that you're supposed to do that. And like most people are like, oh no, I can't do that. It's like, yes, you can. And I hear people all the time because like one of the people who is like one of my favorite people is Fawn Weaver. I love Fawn. And like, she's
Yeah.
been really cool as far as like me learning from her and think in different ways. And so but one of the things that she talked about in this mastermind that I went to that she had at Morehouse was that she always keeps the Sabbath. She does not work at all. And she's been like this since she started her journey. So this is not just like when she got billions. This is like she's always been this way, that she keeps the Sabbath. Like there's one day that she does not do anything. She won't fly for work. She won't do a speaking she won't do anything because she understands the power of rest. And so I know that, people may say like it comes at a cost, but I think it's one of those things that you pay now, you pay later.
Well, for those who can't see, it's like, she in my spirit. I need you to stop it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I
Mm-mm.
had to learn that. I learned that. I learned that last year. And it was the reason why I put down my business. When I left Carnegie, it was kind of like, I knew it was impending and it was like, okay, you have this dream to start this business and it's like you need to start it. So I like started it, but I started it and I had success really quickly. But I did not have all the systems, the infrastructure in place to like keep it going. So it became overwhelming. I'm in grad school. I'm still a wife. I'm still a mother. Like all these things. And I was just like, I literally was on a 24-hour grind to the point where I was just like burnt out completely. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like what am I doing? I am trying to do all of this and not recognizing that I have a partner in this that's way better than I could ever be. So that's how I look at it. I'm like, why am I going to do all of this when like the ultimate business partner is right here? And then the other piece to that too is like in all of that grind that was happening, I was still interviewing for C-suite positions. And I'm talking about going 5 rounds in the interview, this and then just never crossing the finish line because I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't supposed to. If I'm like saying that I want to have I need to be in a place of rest, complete reliance, trust. Me being in the C-suite wasn't going to accomplish that. That was going to be counter to that. Versus I'm like, okay, me working my firm, I have margin for that. And that's one of the things that like the pastor that I listened to is Pastor Mike Ty. And he talked about like having margin. And he's like, I was doing all this stuff. It's like rise and grind, like all about that life. But he was like, it did not give me margin for what God actually wanted me to do. So when I didn't have the space, I couldn't do it. And I'm like, if I was in any of those positions, yes, I would be utilizing my skills. Yes, I'll be able to like really have impact and use my gifts and expertise and talent. But would I have rest? Would I really be able to be in a place where I can be restored and operate at my optimal potential? Would I actually be really walking in my purpose? And it's like, no. That's why I wanted you to see you have the skills. You got the skills. They're there, but that's not for you. And so I understand how it can feel very counterproductive and counterintuitive to someone who is like, I don't have time to rest. But it's like, yeah, you actually do, because if you don't do it now, you will do it later and it'll look like a hospital bed
Mm.
or it'll look like that. It'll look like, that. It'll look like, you're not being here anymore. I'd rather do it
Yeah.
now and make the sacrifice now to stay in this place versus that be the outcome later.
Mm-mm. I got the old like grandma church rock, like from side to side. My spirit is stirred. I didn't anticipate this was gonna happen, but you got me stirred up, and I'm just like, oh, that is just the layers of that. The I think the one of the biggest pieces that you say is like, well, who is my greatest business partner?
Mm-hmm.
And is it well with my business partner on high to do this walk, to have this journey, to move in this way that will always ensure I'm okay? Because if I'm aligned to what God wants in all of her wisdom, in my opinion, that's how she shows up. That we will be blessed beyond measure.
Every time. Every time. I like that when I made the post that I made on like across my platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like the first of all, I don't mind being transparent, but I was like, that was a very vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and transparent
Mm-hmm.
post. And it was that I'm like, and it did come initially out of frustration of like, I've been at this for 18 months, looking for positions, interviewing, get to the final, get to the second round, get to the fifth round, get to the fourth round. And it's just like, what? And I was working with my mentor being coached by VP. They're like, I don't understand because like I will hire you in a second. Like, I don't understand that. Like your references, you can't buy references like this.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing was happening. And I actually went to church, and when this one lady who spoke, she was talking about that we're losing battles that we should win, that we should not lose. And it's like, why? And at the core of it was, for me, was like, you don't trust God.
Ooh.
That was it at the core. It's like, and you won't surrender. Like you surrender some things, but not all things. And if you surrender this, watch me work. And it was crazy because like I was, interviewing for all these jobs. I'm in the running for a chief position, but I had gotten like the biggest contract I've ever secured by myself. Not like in partnership with another firm or anything. Like they were like, we want you to come do your work here. And I was like, okay, so if I can get this by myself and still have the level of like freedom and rest that I have, why would I dedicate 40, 50 plus hours? And I'm not going, like, it's not sunshine and roses, like getting to that place, like, getting to the place of where, you can secure contracts and things like that. There is work. I mean, like I'm going to California next week to like really invest in like making sure I have really good systems that I know how to, do different things to really help move and scale my business. So it takes work. But that's the work I'm supposed to be doing. It wasn't supposed to be in the C-suite for someone else's organization. I'm supposed to be working with the C-suite of that organization, but not sitting in it.
So God will still make sure your gifts
Yes,
are appropriately placed.
absolutely.
You don't have to be placed in such a place that that could impact how your gifts show up.
That's right.
Because now you have created the soil, the pasture. You've created and continue to nurture how you craft the experiences that will benefit other folks, but you get to make the decisions on what spaces you occupy. And sometimes
Exactly.
when you get to a C-suite level, you now have to deal with all of the isms, you name them, that are like then are imparted on you, and then you can't operate in the optimal, you can't operate in the divine.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. We have went over time, but it's okay. We went over time. I'm about to shave my eyebrows off. Whoosh. Patrice and got in my spirit. I wasn't. I'm being like 1,000%. I love this conversation, and I feel stirred. Like my heart is racing, and I feel like this is a message I needed. And we didn't even talk about this.
We
Like
didn't even talk about it. We didn't even talk about it at all. Like not one day, not even one moment prior to this time right now.
But I'm like, oh God, I am operating without my partner in crime. Because we get into like, I'm just doing this thing. I'm trying to check. These are all
Mhm.
things I'm supposed to do. But I've not said, okay, God, I'm gonna just go ahead and pause and sit with you. Like, okay, let me just sit. I'm gonna burn some incense and some candles. It might be some wine. I mean, because that's just me or bourbon.
Mhm.
But let me sit with you and see what it is that how you want to use me and move me. And that I also understand when I take rest, it is okay because you have already made provision before me. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we will be okay.
We will be okay. And like, and with that, it's like, it's okay. And like when I say like I'm really in it, like it's okay to like reset,
Mhm.
do what you need to do in order to really fulfill like what's coming for you. And I mean, I've like had to make some really hard decisions around that, but I'm like at the end of the day,
Mhm.
I know that the decision I'm making now
Mhm.
is going to pay off in dividends later.
Yes.
Instead of being in a place of like where you're drowning. It's like one thing I can tell you is
Mhm.
that in my previous context, I knew I should have left. And I was trying to like make moves to be able to do that. I just hadn't secured anything.
Mhm.
And so then when it was time for me to go,
Mhm.
one of the things that I was offered something else
Mhm.
that wasn't like the work that I had been doing. And I remember telling the president, he told the whole staff, I told him, I was like, I would not shrink another day in this organization.
Mm. Mhm.
And I feel like when I said no to that, God said yes to me.
Okay.
And that is why I had to like, I had to push past like me being overwhelmed and all that kind of stuff. Cause it was like, yeah, you said yes. You said no to that. And I said yes to you, but you didn't say yes to me.
Mm.
And that's what it was. Like yeah, he's like, I'm saying yes to you because yeah, this is what you're supposed to be doing, but you also have to say yes to me and
Mhm.
like let it go.
Mm. Okay. 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 I don't know about y'all. I don't know about I don't know. I'm gonna say this. Thank you. You
You're
know,
welcome. You are so
a lot of people be in your ecosystem,
yes.
support your work, bring you and your work to them.
Like it's coming. So I have two things that are coming up. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I am the founder and I'm a lead consultant for the Blueprint Collective. So it's our firm that really focuses on working with executive teams, working with organizations to make sure that they're healthy. We are the blueprint for the human side of change. So it's encompassing like thinking about psychological safety, emotional intelligence, thinking about resistance to change and really understanding how you lean into that. But also, and so that information you can find me on LinkedIn, and I have all that information on LinkedIn as well as my website, which is gettheblueprint.net. I also have a podcast I'm launching, which I'm super excited about, and it is called Finish What You Started.
Okay.
And the reason why I wanted to start this podcast is one, because I'm a recovering semi procrastinator. I know a lot of people out there in the space are, hey, no judgment here. We're all trying to, make it. And so oftentimes we will start things and we will show up for other people, but we're not showing up for ourselves. And we end up like in a sense like letting ourselves down because we don't finish what we start. And so what I wanted to do was create a space where we could really like one have experts help with things like procrastination, things like that. So I have like a number of therapists that'll be coming on, as well as like me talking about my journey with this, and then the other people that are in the business community being able to share their stories of how they've actually finished what they're starting and where are they now in their journeys of doing this work. So I'm so excited about that. I was like, I'm always say someone is waiting on who you're becoming, so you have to finish what you started.
Come on. Come on. This coming conversation coming out before that because y'all can go ahead and get signed up. I'm gonna sign up. Shoot. Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. My goodness. Patrice Dawkins. I've never done this on any podcast or show. I'm serious.
I love it.
I'm just, oh God.
I
Okay.
love it. I love
We didn't even get to the game. We'll get to the game at another time. It's
Okay,
okay.
listen, I would love for you to definitely be a guest on mine. But I would love anytime to come back anytime because like there is a lot going on in the world and at the same time we can still be extremely hopeful because we're like, just putting one foot in front of the other.
Because God's still at work.
Yep.
God's still at work.
And you gotta rest.
Hello.
That grind,
Yes.
let it go.
Huh.
Put it down.
All right. I hear you. Like, I hear God speaking. Okay. Okay. All right, y'all. Oh, good Lord. Oh, Jesus. All right. This is a wrap for this episode. It ain't the wrap for the conversation. I'm just saying, for Brave Voices Education, if something stirred, and if it didn't stir in you, baby, what's wrong? We need to talk. Just saying, if it didn't stir in you, I need to understand. You can't keep this one to yourself. This episode coming out much faster than I planned. I feel in my spirit some folks need this one.
I appreciate that.
Share this with your village, your team, your brave ones. Come be a part of the movement at bravevoicespod.com, where healing meets hustle and testimony turns into transformation. This podcast is more than a show. It's fuel for the Black Boy Joy Summit, a celebration of brilliance, belonging, and Black and brown boyhood that refuses to shrink. Like what you heard, you better go ahead and make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us. You better share this episode specifically on out of your platforms, babies. Leave a review, share it with your circles, because every listen, every share, every shout out helps us build classrooms, communities, and futures that are braver and more beautiful than before. Until next time, generate your own joy. Never go it alone. Get free and get rest. And always love your brave. Y'all take care.
All right.